Hi, so in this video, I am going to run you through the monthly checklist or the process or the steps that you need to follow to make sure that your Xero is clean and as up to date as possible so that you are working with accurate information if you are then going to run any reports on those figures, so that you have accurate information for your tax returns, for your accounts, etc. Okay, so it's really important that as a bare minimum, I highly recommend that you update your bookkeeping at least once a month. If you can get into the habit of doing it weekly and then doing this monthly check, you are A for away. That's the golden standard. Okay. If you only manage your bookkeeping once a month, that can be okay too, but don't let it be less than once a month. Now, what I can tell you from my years of experience is that even the best bookkeepers in the world need checklists because you get busy, you can forget steps, and it's just really important that you have a checklist that you work through. So a checklist can be something that you literally can go through and check off as you do each step. But it can also just be, or you can have it in an Excel spreadsheet where you mark items off. But it can also just be maybe if you're not so much into like software, you might just have a standard like page that you print out and you just mark through as you go through it. But as long as you have the same sort of 8 to 10 steps or checklists that you mark off, you're going to be in a really strong position and make sure that you don't miss important steps. So let me run you through what I would recommend that you include as your monthly checks, and I will show you how you will do that in Xero. So the first thing to do is to go through your bills and invoices and make sure, I just want to actually open this in a new tab. There we go. So I've opened up bills in a new tab, and I'm going to open up invoices in a new tab. You want to make sure that you've processed any bills that haven't yet been processed. And by that, I mean that can take different shapes and forms depending on whether you are using other bits of software or apps in your ecosystem of apps. Okay, so if you're using something that helps you to capture data like HubDoc, which comes free with Xero, or Dext, which used to be called Receipt Bank, that is helping you to get that paperwork in from your suppliers and then put it through as bills into Xero. So what you want to do is make sure that any outstanding paperwork, it could be like an invoice from your supplier, it could be a receipt for something that you paid for, it could be a loan agreement, any like source documents, supporting evidence or documents that are going to justify that amount that you spent have been processed and put into the system. That's what I mean by processing bills. So looking through, is there any paperwork you haven't yet uploaded? That is your starting point of your month checklist. Okay, so if you have Dext or HubDoc, you would go start there and you would make sure that you had processed all items. If you're using any of the email in features within Xero, you would want to work through your draft and awaiting approval bills and check that there's nothing that needs to be approved and processed through. Okay, so always just on your checklist, make sure you can see it literally takes us a second. Nothing in draft, nothing in waiting approval. If there are items in there, you're going to process them through. Okay, so that's step one of your checklist. Process all your bills, make sure there's nothing awaiting approval. And you're going to do the same on your invoices, okay? You are going to see whether there's any draft invoices that are sitting there that you might need to have sent out that you've forgotten to send. You're going to see if there's any invoices that are awaiting approval, because the worst thing you would want would be things stuck there that you haven't sent out, because that could mean that you're not getting money in that you should be getting in. Okay, so make sure everything that needs to be processed to from your suppliers or to your customers has been done. That's step one and step two on your checklist. Step three is then to reconcile your bank account. So you might have multiple bank accounts. In this case, in this demo company, there's only one bank account. And you can see how you just come to your dashboard and you hit that reconcile button. Now, this video is not about teaching you how to reconcile your bank accounts, so I'm not going to be spending ages on it. Basically, you'll see once it loads, we'll just have our items that we need to work through. And ideally, you need to get this reconciled items down to nil. But if you have one or two small transactions that isn't going to impact, that are not going to have an impact on your financial performance, and you may be waiting for an Amazon invoice, or it's something small that you can't get, don't let the small items hold you up. You can just proceed, but ideally you want to try get it down to nil. So you would work through where things match up. You can click OK. You might need to look in more details, like here, you might need to say found and match. And actually, when I look that up, that £4,500 that we spent is made up of 2 payments. Okay, so that's the type of stuff you're going to work through and reconcile and get the number of unreconciled items down to 0 or as close to 0 as you can. Okay, once your account is fully reconciled, let's say you get it all the way down to 0, what you should see is that your statement balance and your balance in Xero exactly agree. If they do not, that is a sign of an underlying problem that needs further investigation. Now, I am going to give you a tip on now and give you a brief explanation on how you can begin to resolve a difference if there is. You would probably need a deeper further training on this if needed. Okay, to really get to the bottom of some of the bigger issues that can be the reason behind a difference here. But the key thing for you to understand is that once you get this fully reconciled, and there are naught items here to reconcile, these two balances should exactly agree, otherwise there's a problem. I can also, what I'm going to show you now is how you can pick up the idea with bookkeeping where it gets really exciting and useful is if you can almost predict when there's going to be problems and actually fix problems before they become bigger issues. And the power to do that all lies in the account transactions tab. But before I jump in there, I want to explain a few bits, okay? Firstly, let's talk about what is the statement balance versus the balance in Xero. Let's talk about banks briefly, okay? I'll make sure I only spend a minute on this because this is a whole month in checklist video and it isn't about bank accounts. But let me just explain an important principle at this point. Is your business bank account should have a live bank feed that where you've connected Xero to your bank account and information is pulling through live. So that is what makes up your statement balance. It is all the information that is pulled in from your live bank feed. So it's a direct feed of information, and it should, if you log into your bank account now, on your PC or whatever you bank with, if you log on online and you check your bank account balance, the statement balance, even if you haven't reconciled, if you can have hundreds of unreconciled items, the statement balance should always agree to your bank account. If it does not, that means that some items have not pulled through or duplicated items have pulled through. Now, this is quite a common occurrence with these live bank feeds. It can happen quite often that transactions will be missed or duplicate transactions will pull through. So this is, I would say, because we've done process bills, process invoices, reconcile banks. This is point 4, is to check that your bank balance, when you log into your bank account, agrees to the statement balance that is showing for each of your bank accounts. If there's a difference, that is an indication that there are either duplicate or missing transactions that have not pulled through from your bank feed. So what you would need to do is, if you find that there's a difference, you would need to come to this bank statements tab, and you would literally need to open up a statement from your bank, like that you pull like a PDF or like your bank statement on your when you log into your bank, and you sit with this bank statements feed and literally compare day by day what transaction has either been duplicated or missed. Okay, and I would have to do a whole separate video on how to sort that out, but that's what you're looking for here if you find that the statement balance is not agreeing. Okay, so that is number 4 on your checklist. Number 5 is this account transactions tab, where I told you some of the real magic lies in having a bit of a crystal ball and picking up issues before they become bigger issues. So if something appears here in your account transactions tab and it is sitting as unreconciled, so this is checklist item number 5, that is normally an indication of a problem if that is older than about 2 weeks, okay? If you are actively and regularly, you've gone through and you've reconciled your bank as much as you can, and you've got everything down to either 0 transactions or there's 1 or 2 transactions, and you come to this account transactions tab, and there are transactions that are older than 2 weeks, you have a problem to unpick. Okay, so this should be the 5th thing that you check every single month once you've done the first 4 items that I've recommended. So it's important that you do this checklist in this order because you've reconciled the bank. You now come to the account transactions tab, and the items here you need to delve deeper. Okay. Again, it's probably a bigger issue that needs to be unpicked in its own video. But basically, how this happens to get these unreconciled items, even when this is fully reconciled, is, as I was explaining a moment ago, your statement balance is what's exactly pulled in from your bank account. Your balance is 0 is then the transactions that are created in the bank account in Xero. So what you want to happen over time is your transactions that have happened in your bank account per your bank statement agree to the transactions that you create in your bank in Xero. Okay, and that those must agree over time. If you have where you end up with unreconciled transactions in the account transactions tab, so the account transactions tab represents all the transactions that make up your balance in Xero. The bank statement tab represents all the transactions that make up your statement balance. Okay, so you go to your bank statements to see transactions that should have pulled through from your bank account. You go to account transactions tab to see what transactions have been created within the Xero bank. Now, the reason why I say it's an issue is if you've fully reconciled your reconcile tab here, which is reconciling all the differences between these two, and you still have unreconciled items here, it means that you have created transactions in Xero that do not exist in your bank. How have you done this? Maybe you've marked a bill as paid or an invoice as paid when it actually never was paid. So you'll need to go and drill down and unpick that. And we'll have separate training on it. If you I might put it out there as a freebie, or I might put it as part of the program. But basically, that's what you'll need to do. Okay. I could go on for another 10 minutes explaining all the different errors you might find within this and how to fix it, but that's the high level of understanding what has gone wrong here. So that's checklist number 5 for what you should be doing at month end. The 6th thing that you should do, the 6th and 7th are your final. There's a bonus 8th point, but the 6th thing that you should do is go back now. So once you've reconciled the bank, checked for those errors, is you're going to go back into your bills and you're going to go to those that are still awaiting payment, okay? And in your bills that are awaiting payment, what you now want to do, assuming you've reconciled everything, you now want to look for any bills that are older than 2, 3, 4 weeks, or any bills that you know you've already paid that are still sitting there. And this is just spending a bit of time cleaning up your bills to pay. And it's saying, well, is there a credit note that I could apply to an invoice? Is there an old bill here that actually I know I've already paid? Is there an old bill here that I probably shouldn't have put through the business and it's never going to be paid and I need to get rid of it? Then, finally, well, no, I said that was number 6. Number 7 is to do the same on your invoices. So in your invoices, come to awaiting payments, and this is customers that need to pay you, and doing exactly the same. Are there any credit notes that need to be applied? Are there any overpayments or prepayments that need to be applied to invoices? Are there older invoices here that I need to chase? I need to send invoice reminders. And a top tip there, do make sure you turn on your automatic invoice reminders feature in Xero. That's super powerful. That's another little nugget. Can't go into that now, otherwise this video will be too long. Checklist item number 7, make sure you do spend 5 minutes cleaning up your invoices each month. And then the 8th thing, because I did say there would be about 8 items on your checklist, is to run a find and recode. And this is specifically important if you are using Xero tracking categories. So if you are saying tracking different departments, different offices, or different, like you're using those tracking categories, if you're using them, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's really powerful to do a quick little check. once a month to make sure that you have not missed any transactions. Now, you can either do this as a find and recode. So if you come to the accounting menu here, you go to find and recode. I would say be very careful with find and recode. So if you are not a confident bookkeeper, or you're still building your confidence, or you're quite new to Xero, maybe don't use it, because you can make a really big mess in seconds if you don't know what you are doing, because it just bulk updates transactions. But with the find and recode, you would basically look for uncategorized transactions that have no tracking category. But the way you could do it that gives you the same result, but is not open to you making a huge mistake across the board, is actually to come to your profit and loss report in Xero. So to do that, you go accounting, and under the accounting report section, you come to your profit and loss. Okay. And what you do here is if you're assuming you've been using tracking categories and you have that tracking categories feature switched on in Xero, what you will see is this option to filter for tracking categories. This box appears here. What you can then do is you can scroll down and click on unassigned. So what you're going to want to do is say, well, in the last month, let's say last month, and I want to compare it to, it's not going to let me compare. Maybe because I've selected region. So you might just want to say, actually, I'm just going to go back and look over the last sort of 5 or 6 months. Just see, are there any transactions that I did not assign, say I'm assigning all my income and expenditure to these different regions, and are there transactions that I forgot to assign? So they're sitting under unassigned. Now, this is a demo company. You can see here. So there are lots of unassigned transactions. But what you should be looking to have, if you are using tracking categories properly, is there may be 1 or 2 transactions at most that you have missed in your bookkeeping. And what you would do in here is you would drill down into the transactions that make up that amount, and then you would go and edit those transactions to ensure that you have allocated them to a tracking category. So that's a really good check to do at least once a month if you are using your tracking categories. Hopefully you found this video useful, and see you soon. Cheers.